Hello, beautiful creature. If you are seeing this, you are seeing this on my YouTube channel that has been a little quiet the last couple years, but I am thinking about getting back in the YouTube space. But for now, I'm going to be trying to share some of my podcast episodes on my actual YouTube channel. So the one that you are seeing this on now versus it having its own separate channel, just as kind of a motivator to get me back in the video space. I may upload them to the actual podcast channel as well, but for now they're going to be right here. So if you're about to watch this, you are about to watch a podcast episode from yours truly. But I figured I would try this. I'm experimenting, I'm dabbling. So if you are excited about this, if you want more YouTube videos, back to the good old days of YouTube content creation, just in a different way, like this video, leave a comment, and just for now, enjoy the podcast. What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to EMBody Radio, the premier podcast for high-performing humans looking to truly embody their happiest, healthiest, highest selves. I'm your host, Emily Duncan, and we are here today for a solo episode. First and foremost, I got so much positive feedback on the last solo episode where it was just like a brain dump, a life dump, a feelings dump, but there was just a lot of really good positive feedback on that. So thank you so much. It always makes me really happy, not only when the solo episodes do well, but when it's so well received that it's just a nice reminder that I still get to show up on social media, on the internet in a very real, authentic way that feels very aligned for me. It's just a nice reminder. So thank you guys for being such an awesome community. I am just very, very grateful to have you here. And today, I don't know exactly how many years I've done this. It might have only been a couple, but I've gotten into the habit and want to continue the habit of doing kind of a yearly podcast around my birthday where it's just a reflection on the past year and some of the lessons that I learned in that year. And I vividly remember recording this episode last year because I was in my New York apartment. I remember it was a little bit of a pressed day, a pressed schedule because we did a staycation, Chris and I did, in my favorite hotel in New York, the Standard, right after I recorded this episode. Like, I remember hitting stop on the recording, getting it all set and ready to go, ready to launch, and then going to the hotel. So it's just like, it's so crazy to even just in that reflection, reflect on where I was recording this podcast last year, and to be where I am now in our apartment in Denver, being kind of settled in routine and all of that. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But yeah, we are approaching what I heard someone refer to as senior year of adulthood, which is 29. So it felt very appropriate when I saw that. I was like, you know what? There is something about turning 29 that feels like, senior year of high school in a way. So I am embracing that. I am leaning into that. And honestly, like, I know that people view 30 as a milestone. So I feel like 29 is kind of like a milestone in and of itself because it's like, bro, senior year, time to do some shit. So before we do some shit, we're going to reflect on 28. But I do turn 29 on May 11th, which it really snuck up on me this year. I feel like a lot has been sneaking up on me. Like Valentine's Day snuck up, Chris and I's anniversary snuck up, my birthday snuck up. Just like, I feel like life is moving very, very fast and a little like not chaotically because things are a lot more grounded, but just life is moving really fast. So last weekend, I was like, oh, my birthday is next weekend. Cool. Great. Awesome. Love it. So snuck up on me and I was like, wow, it's time to reflect on this last year. And also how appropriate that I am a Taurus girly and we have the Taurus new moon right before my birthday. I don't know. Just feels really aligned, really good, really nice. So here we go. Let's get into it. Some of my lessons from my 28th year of life that I share in hopes that it helps you. That's, the only reason I really ever share anything is at least 99% of the time is in hopes that it helps somebody else in their life journey in, embodying their happiest, healthiest, highest self, all of those things. So here we go. Number one is how much I love and need routine. So like I said, even just reflecting on where I was when I recorded this episode last year, I was obviously in a very big whirlwind and chaos season. I was still living between Columbus and Manhattan. Chris and I were traveling a ton. It was just, I was not in the same place for more than 2 weeks at a time, which like for me, as somebody that as a Taurus loves their stability and their comfort and their routine and all of those things, it was a lot. It was a lot. And you know what? It was a lot, and it was a lot of fun. Yes. And also really reflecting honestly on it, I was not able to fully maximize my potential in that time frame, from like, right before my birthday, from like April-ish through when we got to Denver in August. I wasn't really to fully optimize myself and who I was in that, season of life, because I was so ungrounded. My health wasn't optimized, my schedule wasn't optimized, my business and my income wasn't optimized, because so much around me was spinning. And I think I did a great job of doing what I could within that chaos and, maintaining within that chaos. And also, I think it's so important to be radically honest and accountable to yourself and kind of let yourself know, like, hey, dude, you did what you could. And also, you weren't able to be your best in this environment and in this scenario and under these circumstances. And really using that as an opportunity to reflect and say, hey, if I do want to be my optimized self, here are the conditions under which I am most able to do that. And here's where it kind of starts to slip. So even for me, just being able to be like, hey, I need to be able to have a fairly consistent day-to-day routine for my like mental and kind of cognitive optimization. I also need some sort of daily routine to really physically optimize, and all of the different areas, right? And I think in kind of like soft culture, not that that's bad, like not that being in your soft girl kind of time is bad or whatever, but like we've come to this place where we have kind of deemed any level of routine and groundedness and consistency, and honestly having goals and drive, as like a bad thing or a toxic thing. And I don't view it that way. I very much so want to be my most optimized self, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, professionally, relationally, like all of those things. And, granted, there's going to be a dynamic nature to all of that. You're maybe going to be optimized in one area, but maybe not another. But you know what? I want to do my fucking damnedest to be as optimized in every single area of my life as I possibly can at all times. I'm an asshole like that. That's what I want from my life and from myself. And so just being really honest about like, hey, this was really fun. It taught me a lot. It did expand me in ways that I think I needed to be expanded. And also, to be that optimized best version of myself, I need different from myself, and being willing to say that and, take that accountability. But, it took such a toll on my body and on my mind. I gained weight. I was less productive. My mental and emotional health were just way more volatile. Everything in my life pretty much suffered in some way. And again, I learned a lot. I grew a lot, and there was a lot of fun within that. And also, it's not where I want to be the majority of the time, right? It's not where I want to set myself up the majority of the time. And so kind of how I use that as a lesson, it's okay, here is the relative amount of schedule, routine, structure, consistency that I both need and want in my life to optimize. When I stray from that, for example, we're going on an extended trip to Europe here, very soon, the day after my birthday, where we'll be gone for, several weeks at a time. So it's like, okay, how do I use what I learned from that time when my life was more chaotic? I was traveling a lot more. I was on my feet a lot more versus being really grounded and structured in my routine. How do I use that to to inform the self that's going on this trip? What do I need to do? What safeguards do I need to have in place for myself, for my schedule, for my routine, for my life, so that I can keep moving forward? Obviously, it's not anywhere near as an extended period of time as I was traveling last year, but just using that experience to inform, a somewhat similar experience that I'm about to have. But first and foremost lesson being, I need and love routine and structure. As soon as we moved to Denver and I was in just a new environment, with Chris, and just kind of got to settle in and root down, so many things improved. The first one that I always notice is my health. My health makes such strides forward when I'm just grounded and consistent and routine, and then everything else kind of followed from there. And then lesson number 2, and this is like such a fitness girly thing of me to say, but it's that I really love training. I really love training. So the last quarter, there we go, the last quarter of 2022 and kind of the first half-ish of 2023, I was doing more intense functional protocols to really work on my immune system and my internal health. So I wasn't able to train as hard. And I kind of, even before that, the period in time after I left bodybuilding, so, beginning of 2021 and then kind of into 2022, I had kind of fallen out of love with fitness and really hard training in like the traditional sense. I think I was just kind of burnt out from bodybuilding. I still did it, but I didn't love it as much. And I didn't really have the same drive to like lift super heavy or, do any of that. And like, so I was still training, but just not in the same way. So really from 2021 to 2023, 2021 to 2022 and a half, I was definitely still training and training well, but not as hard as I could have been. And then last quarter of 22 into the first half of 2023, I was doing more functional stuff. So a big chunk of time where I just wasn't as in love with really hard training as I have been in the past. And I thought maybe I would never love it the same again, right? And boy, did I learn. So when we moved out here, I started having Chris write a lot of my programming. It's just something that I didn't want to have to do for myself anymore, especially as somebody that is running a fitness coaching business, is doing client work for other people. Like I've always loved being a client because I hate having to be a client for myself because I will put myself last essentially. Right. So I started having Chris write more of my programming. And then I started, really focusing on getting strong and getting muscular again for the first time in years. And it felt so good. It felt so good. It felt so fun. It felt really cool to be back in that place where I was like, oh man, training sessions are just going to kind of be really hard and suck. And then the next week they're going to be hard and suck again, but in the way that I'm stronger. So it has to be harder and suck more because I'm progressing. Like, oh, what a bitch. But it was so fun. It's been so fun. Obviously I took a long break from training to recover from surgery. And now I am feeling fully that itch to be a badass in the gym again. But I saw the most glute progress that I've seen in years. I had just a lot of fun, and it felt really good to tap back into that part of myself that will never die. I really don't think the gym rat in me will ever die. It will have different iterations and flavors and all of that, but she is alive and well. And, channeling my drive again and seeing that progress again was so rewarding. And I can honestly do it even better than I had been doing it in, the latter half of 2023 and before surgery in 2024. It's reflecting on it, and especially kind of having this post-operative period where I haven't been able to train for, a consistent period of time. It's just really lit a fire under my ass of like, ooh, how much better can I be when I am at 100%, right? I can be even more consistent with my nutrition. I can train even harder. I can be even more badass. And I'm really looking forward to that once we get home from Europe and I'm more fully recovered from surgery. Obviously, I've gotten back into training the last couple of weeks, and, we're going to make a point of being active on vacation, finding gyms where we can. And obviously you fucking walk forever in Europe. You do a lot of that. But it's such a positive encouragement for when we do come back. Like, I really am thinking I kind of want to try Olympic lifting again. And, with 29 kind of being the senior year of adulting, it's like, hey, getting ready for 30, it's the kind of cliche thing of like, oh, I want to be in the best shape of my life by 30. But I really do. Like, I really do. I really want to be the most optimized version of myself in all ways by 30. And I think that's, something we'll talk about a little bit more as the episode progresses. But yes, the love of training. Pause for a beverage sip. I never know how deeply you can hear that in this microphone because it cuts out a lot of background noise. So I'm sorry if you heard me gulping. And then if you didn't, I'm sorry you just heard an awkward pause. Shameless plug. If you are looking to fall back in love with training, with nutrition, with the gym, with just your bad bitch habits, hello, I have a thing for you. So this past April, we launched at Phoenix, and more so I launched. This was like my passion project, Vera, which is our subscription app for training, for habit tracking, for holistic wellness. We have a free 60-page nutrition guide in there because it is not a coached app. You're not coached on nutrition, but you do have extensive nutrition resources in there available to you. It is your all-in-one fitness, health, wellness, personal development app. There's journal prompts, there's affirmations, there's all of the wellness tools you could ever want in there, and it is only $22 a month. It was really important to me me to make this affordable and accessible to a wide range of people, no matter the price point. So $22 a month, or you can pay for a year upfront, which is $200, which saves you something like, I want to say like $60 a month. I'm not doing the math right off the top of my head. Or not $60 a month. I'm so sorry. Like $60 a year, I want to say. Not $60 a month. It's not even $60 a month to begin with. But if you are looking for your all-in-one fitness, nutrition, health, wellness community app, there's a pop-in community in there. I love it so much. Then all of the info on that is in the show notes. Once again, it is called Vera. You can also find it on our website, phoenixathletica.com. But again, shameless plug, if you are looking to rechannel that bad bitch energy, we're doing it together. We're doing it together. And so, lesson number 3, speaking up may cost you, but do it anyway. So I've had this presented to me, several times over the last few years of my life, but in kind of backstory, I have definitely historically been someone that if something bothers me, sometimes I will let things slide, not because I don't want confrontation or not because I don't feel that I'm worth it, but because I know that I'll take a lot of things on the chin because I know that I have the emotional processing skills to just kind of process it on my own and quote unquote deal with it and, not have to make somebody else deal with it. And I don't necessarily know where that comes from. Honestly, a lot of times I'm like, you probably don't have the capacity to process this and deal with this with me. So I'm just going to handle it on my own. Like, fuck it. This is not that big of a deal, right? I've made things that maybe were a bigger deal, less of a big deal, just so that I could process them on my own and not have to, do the whole thing, right? And again, I don't know exactly where that comes from, but a big kind of growth point for me the last 2 years especially, and then in this last year certainly, has been speaking up more and being more willing to be communicative, particularly of behaviors that I don't like. So being willing to say like, hey, love you, and also do not like what you did there. And, being willing to be in that confrontational space. And I think the biggest thing for me has been expressing behavior that I don't like from people, treatment that I don't like from people, instead of just taking it, instead of just being like, oh, I'm strong enough to, deal with it, being like, no, actually, we're cool, but I didn't like that. So I had a specific instance this year where I was very, very honest with someone in my life about how a particular situation was handled that I did not love. And, I acknowledged and did my best to acknowledge where I did not show up the best in that situation as well. But I just expressed like, hey, I didn't like how this went. And ultimately that, kind of conversation and the conversations that continued from that cost me that relationship. And, I don't think it had to, but it did. And that's the way that it panned out. And it was one of the first times in my life, it probably the first time that this happened, it actually strengthened the relationship that I had when I did this. But in this particular relationship, it was probably like the second time really where in one of my major adult relationships, I didn't just let something slide and process it on my own because I can handle it. I actually spoke up. I let them know that I didn't like that behavior. And then it all kind of unraveled from there. And, it's for one, it's made me even more willing to have tough conversations, period. And it's also, too, really driven home the point for me how important it is in relationships, friendships, intimate relationships, family, whatever, to run into snags and hiccups and friction, because it's in those frictiony times where you are going to learn the strength of that relationship. Can this relationship handle conflict? Can this relationship handle discord? Like, can it handle being tested? And when it is tested, what happens? Does it completely fall apart? Does it get stronger? What goes on? You learn so much about the relationship, yourself, all of those things. Good relationships need conflict. That doesn't mean you should seek it out, but it means that every relationship, especially the longer they go on, it is inevitable. You will run into something, you're going to rub up against each other, right? And if I firmly believe that forgive, don't forget. And what I mean there is I will forgive, but I will never forget, because I want to remember exactly how we both showed up in our conflict and in our friction. And if us showing up in that conflict, in that friction, strengthened our relationship, I don't want to forget that. I want to remember that, because that means that we have a relationship that can withstand tough moments, tough conversations. I also don't want to forget it if we were in conflict and you showed up really shittily, because that means that our relationship is probably not strong enough to handle conflict. And that's either something that we need to work on or we need to reevaluate the relationship. So speaking up, no matter how uncomfortable, is always worth it. And I know it might not seem like it was worth it if it results in the cessation of a relationship, friendship, whatever. If it resulted in that, it was absolutely worth speaking up, because it was only a matter of time. Only a matter of time. Lesson number 4, I love saying no. Oh my God. I've been this way for a very long time, but I think I just got even more confident in it this last year. And so I was actually talking with my best friend Caitlin about this on the phone a little bit the other night, but just in general, like, I have no space for plans or connections that I don't really want to have or to deepen, right? And I think that there is such a weird, like, expectation placed upon particularly connections, where it's like, if maybe you meet somebody and they're like, oh my God, like, we should totally hang out, but you're just really not feeling the vibe, there's such a pressure to be like, oh my God, yeah, we should, instead of just being like, no, we shouldn't. And obviously there's a different way to phrase that, but I think we get ourselves in so many situations where we're maybe not actually really feeling a connection, but we try and force it and we try and fake it. And that's not fair to either party, right? And I'm in a place where I've come to understand as well that I have such an infinite capacity for connection. And honestly, it's actually not as infinite as it used to be. It's a little more limited now, but an even more limited capacity for intimacy. And I don't have to be everyone's best friend or even their close friend. You're allowed to be auxiliary to people, and that's okay. You can be in the same kind of larger friend group, but not be super intimately connected or friends with every single person in it. And just being willing to be like, yeah, no, I actually don't feel the need to further or deepen this connection, or at least not at this point in time, based on the bandwidth that I have. Like, I am so okay with saying that. Again, whether it's plans, whether it's people, if it's not a hell yes from me, it's a hell no from me. And, kind of another one of my philosophies with this is, you should be taking and giving that 100% hell yes energy to the people that are, and the plans that are, and the things that are that 100% hell yes energy. Because if you're saying yes to everything, you are in a way saying no to the most important things, because you only have so much bandwidth as a person. You need to be so selective with your yes, with the people that gets your yes, or the people that get your yes, the things that get your yes, the endeavors that get your yes, the trips that get your yes, the even just coffee dates that get your yes. All of that is time, all of that is energy, all of that is emotional investment, and that is a limited resource, right? We can expand our capacity for that resource or those resources, but I still feel they're going to be limited. And again, I want to be able to give 100% to the things that are 100% fuck yeses for me. And I will always be kind and courteous. It's not about that. It's not about being petty or catty. You should never be that way, in my opinion. But I'm not just going to spend time with someone or connect with someone where it's just out of obligation, right? Or because I think I'm supposed to, or because they want to. I really need to feel a level of investment and yes and pull towards the things that I'm committing to, or I'm not doing it. And, I will show up for my people when it counts, of course. I'm just much more intentional about how I use my time and how I use my connection. So I would really encourage you to kind of ask yourself, where am I connecting with people and spending my time and giving my energy just because I feel obligated, or because I don't know how to say no because I'm afraid of disappointing someone, or having someone be like, oh, well, like, why did she not want to do that with me? Like, it's okay to be selective with your time and with your energy. Everyone is not for you, and you are not for everyone else. And again, you should be giving your best self and your maximal self to those things, people, places, pursuits that are those 100% full body fuck yeses. We're going to take another drink break. Today's podcast is sponsored. Not really. It's just I'm drinking an Alani. It's not sponsored by Alani. Shouldn't have said that. We do love Alani in this house. We do. Okay. Lesson number 5. Oh, this one is such a special one. And it's that people talking shit about me or not liking me bothers me so much less. And this is something that, it's taken a long time. And being somebody that's been a content creator for over 10 years at this point, I have obviously gotten my fair bit of shit spoken about me, to me, things that I never even could have thought of someone saying to her about me have been said to me or about me. And there have been times, even in recent times when it's really gotten under my skin. And, it's funny, as much as I've tried to like safeguard myself from that and avoid it, I don't go on Reddit on purpose. I don't seek, these pages and these people out on purpose. And also it pretty much always comes back around to me. Like I often hear about it. Right. And even when I don't hear about it, it's one of the craziest things that I've had to kind of adjust to as a content creator in this space that people do enjoy talking about at times, is knowing all the time, no matter what it is that I say, no matter what it is that I post, what it is that I don't post, there is going to be someone somewhere out there that has something to say about it and says it. And so it's just kind of this constant background noise in my life of, hey, somebody's going to have something to say about this. And there have been times when I have heavily filtered myself because I have simply not wanted to deal with the potential reactions of what somebody on the internet is going to have to say. And I'm kind of getting, or even just like, if somebody was to say something, directly to me in my DMs, on a post, whatever, where I would just ignore it. And I don't think I'm ever going to be, the type of person that really heavily engages with like trolls or hate or whatever. That's not my vibe. I don't really want to spend my time doing that. I have much better things to do. And also, I am not a doormat. And so if someone walks into my proverbial home on social media and wants to say some shit, I have no problem now telling you to fuck off, right? And I'm not talking about things that might actually be constructive. I'm talking about people that are just coming in, being hateful, being shitty for no reason. You know what? Sometimes you can be all love and light. Fuck you. No. As above, so below. Like, I think there is something so deeply spiritual about knowing when to tell someone to fuck off, right? Some people deserve to be told and need to be told to fuck off. And again, like, you might have your own feelings about that. Like, oh, that's just not good energy. Like, don't put that energy out there, girl. And I'm like, no. Again, you come into my house, you want to say some shit. This is my house. I'm going to protect and defend my house. And I had an experience, it's funny. Like I am someone, I can find a metaphor and a lesson and a personal development moment staring at a brick wall, right? Some people think that's me just trying to be excessively deep. And I'm just like, this is literally how I process and experience the world. Take it or leave it. But Chris and I decided to do a last minute send to the Lakers versus Nuggets game a couple weeks ago. It was first and foremost such a fucking fun experience. Like, absolutely loved it. 11 out of 10 would do again. And also, obviously, LeBron plays for the Lakers. Chris grew up in Akron. I'm from Southwest Ohio. My uncle was a sports photographer for a lot of Cleveland sports, including the Cavs when LeBron was playing for them. So obviously, like, leaning more towards, and especially Chris. Chris is a big LeBron fan. But even for me, I'm like, yo, if I'm going to be watching this game and rooting for anybody, it's going to be LeBron. It's going to be the Lakers. Everybody else on the Lakers, but, and LeBron. And just in general, no matter what you think of him, no matter what team you're rooting for, LeBron James is without question one of the best athletes in not just basketball history, but in sports history, right? Buddy is almost 20 years the senior or close to something. I don't know. He's pretty old for the NBA, right? He's been in the NBA for over 2 decades, one of the oldest, if not the oldest player in the league by far and away. And he's still fucking out there doing it, right? Like, iconic athlete. And one of the things that I noticed while we were watching this game is how when LeBron would do something, you know, LeBron would miss a shot or LeBron would do this, do that. When LeBron would get called for fouling a player, the volume of the booing would increase exponentially compared to any other player. And as that continued to happen, and I remember it really, really clicked for me, like when I was just watching him do free throws and hearing how loud the booing was from fucking thousands of people as he's just sitting here concentrating on shooting free throws. And it really clicked for me. I was like, oh, they are booing because he's LeBron James. Because he is so fucking good at what he does. And it just like, it rearranged my brain chemistry in a way that was like, oh, people will hate you because you're, you know, good at something or because you are an impactful person. And, you know, even when I made a post about this, there was somebody in the comments that were like, oh, you're just like a mid-tier influencer. You have no business to be saying this. Like, ew, like, so like how that's basically like, oh, gross of you to have this take. And I am not LeBron James by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not a celebrity. I am somebody that has a larger than normal following that does have to deal with, or that does have to deal with more criticism than the average person has to deal with, right? And as somebody that has held themselves back at times or filtered themselves at times or kind of diluted themselves at times due to that criticism and trying to avoid it, it just really put things into perspective for me of, hey, if LeBron James can hear fucking thousands of people booing at him all the time, and that's not even talking about the rest of the criticism that he's had to endure during his entire career, I can handle some fucking internet trolls and I can pursue the life and the self and the person that I want to be regardless of that or with that in mind and not let it stop me. So yeah, I think what we're really going to be seeing more of in the weeks and months and years to come is a me that gives less fucks about what anybody has to say about me. And it feels really good. Now, lesson number 6, and I'm not going to go on about this one too long, but because I could go on about it for a very long time, but it is that healthy love feels really, really good. Obviously, Chris and I have been dating for a little over a year now, and this is hands down the happiest, healthiest relationship that I have ever been in, and it feels so calm and so peaceful and so relaxing and grounded. And as somebody that comes from, and you know, this isn't something I've talked necessarily extensively about on social media, especially not like in any grave detail, because there are parts of my life with respect to this that I keep private for a reason, just for my own mental and emotional health. But as somebody that has been in very, very unhealthy relationships of varying varieties, right? I was definitely conditioned to chaos. And there was definitely an adjustment period when Chris and I started dating where I had old traumas resurface, even though he was doing nothing to trigger them. I honestly firmly believe that because I was in an environment where I felt safe and held and supported, that some of those things came up and out so that they could be processed in a healthier way and really, again, like held and seen and dealt with, and supported both on my end and, from a partner. But as somebody that was very, very conditioned to chaos in relationships, I definitely had a lot of adjusting to do when it came to like essentially not being on a chemical roller coaster with Chris, right? Like I was so used to like the up and down and the push and pull of relationship dynamics that I had been in the past, that when that wasn't present, when things were really calm and really grounded and really chill, my brain was just like, nope, we can't compute. We don't know what that means. Like, I don't feel anxiety. This is bad, which obviously is not a good thing. Not feeling anxiety in a relationship is a great thing. But all of that to say, like, being in a place where I feel so comfortable and safe and grounded and loved with a person, and we get to just like exist in our daily life. Like I've never lived with a partner until now. And like the amount of times where I just like look over at him in the kitchen and I'm like, holy shit, this is my life. Like I'm doing this, we're doing this. And, even just being like, dude, I love our little home with our dogs and our little couch and our little shows and like all of these little things that are massive. Like, all to say, lover girl M. We love it here. We really, really do. And then 7. Actually, I'm going to take a little sip ski. Good shit. Okay. 7. And this kind of stems into one of the big themes that I am carrying into my 29th year. But the lesson is I need to do more things for me. And I need to do more things for me creatively. So I am a creative at heart. We know this. And I think I talked about this on my like brain life dump episode, but I got into a space, and as a business owner, and again, this is an area of tension that I have as a business owner, but I got into a space where it felt like I was only giving myself permission to create if it was fitness related, especially from a lead gen perspective, because I have this company and I have people that I am responsible for providing for and all of those things, right? And this has become so incredibly draining and damaging to my mental and emotional well-being as a creative. And there are so many other things that I want to do and that I want to create as a person, as a business owner, as an artist, all of these things, and not giving myself permission to want or do those things, and not giving myself the space to think about and just brainstorm about those things. It's created a lot of creative blocks and honestly a lot of heaviness and sadness in my like heart and in my person. And so kind of segueing, at 29 and in my 29th year, I not only want, but I am committing to creating more things, including offers that are just for me, that are, and obviously with offers, they're like not just for me because there's other people participating in them, but like that are just things that I want to do. Like I am taking off some of the pressure of myself of you can't have anything, in your feed or in your kind of offer suite that compete with fitness coaching. No, I'm taking that off. I'm taking that pressure off. I'm taking that limitation off, and I am giving myself 100% permission to create things that I truly feel excited about creating. And that's not to say that I don't feel excited about, fitness coaching. I love that we get to change lives from the inside out, and revolutionize women's bodies, how they feel about their bodies, how they understand their bodies, all of those things. I absolutely adore that. I think that's incredible. I think that's amazing. And also I have so many other things that I want to do. And in truth, like I want to say that, and I might get a little emotional when I talk about this, but I want to say that I have so many other things that I am passionate about. And I do. And also, I couldn't tell you in extreme explicit detail necessarily what those things are at this exact moment because I have been so disconnected from them. I have been so tapped out of everything else. I've kind of had a lack of harmony in my creative and professional kind of bodies because I've been so in the weeds with the fitness stuff. So I think another big part of 29, and I'm kind of starting to really feel into what these things are going to be and what those passions are. But a big focus for me in 29 is, feelings. A big focus. This is really me like claiming this right now. A big focus for me in my 29th year is truly reconnecting with what I am most passionate about and my creative energy and my creative life force and what just purely brings me joy to do and create and to be. And I get emotional about that because I think just even if we distill like one of those passions, like one of my biggest passions is just creating. And so creating just for the love of it, creating for the fun of it, creating things that are new, being willing to, I was having this conversation with my friend Lauren the other day, being willing to be a beginner again. You know, obviously creating offers outside of the fitness space is a relatively new thing for me. Obviously I've done mentorship a little bit over the last couple of years, but even that I haven't like foot to gassed it because my time and attention has been so taken by, you know, Phoenix, the fitness company. And so really being willing to be a beginner at things again and to try and to fail and to rough draft and to edit and to revise and to get my hands dirty and to have fun doing that. That's a huge theme for me in this upcoming year. And I'm just really excited to kind of take you guys along for that ride. This is going to be an exercise in me also just like sharing vulnerably again too of, you know, there's new things that I'm doing that are different for me and really leaning into that and being willing to lean into that, you know, for as much as I can say, and this is me being like real fucking unfiltered right now. You know, as much as I can say, you know, yeah, it's been really frustrating feeling kind of creatively stifled because I'm kind of over here, you know, doing this and, you know, need to continue doing that. And also I know fitness. I understand it. I can talk about it extensively. And so it's a comfort place for me as well. So, and it feels like even thinking about doing new things, it feels really vulnerable because it's like, bro, there's so much identity wrapped up in, you know, Emily, the fitness professional, right? And the vulnerability of essentially fostering and developing and sharing these new parts of myself that I'm kind of like growing and nurturing and nourishing in real time. It's like, ooh, that's pretty tender. Like, wow, scary, exciting, different, new, like all of that. One of the areas that I'm feeling really called, and I know that people listening want because you talk to me about it, but is really creating something for business owners and what I am really passionate about. And like, I know that I said I'm like finding my passions, but like as I've been thinking about this, I'm like, what am I really passionate about when it comes to like talking to business owners? It's not just fitness professionals. It includes fitness professionals, but it's really creatives and entrepreneurs across spaces that are looking to really hone in on their authenticity as business owners and as creators, how to create a brand from an authentic and aligned with your values place, how to create a brand that really speaks and is sticky versus gets lost in a sea of just a bajillion other businesses. So really truly developing your authentic brand voice, you know, regulating as a business owner, optimizing from both masculine and feminine energies as business owners, and harmonizing and using both of those polarities, schedule optimization and time optimization as a business owner, which could fall into like that more masculine space, but just those kinds of things around business. It's not like, oh, here's how you do lead gen and DM outreach and all of that. Like there's fucking plenty of programs that'll overcharge you for that. Like That's not what I'm passionate about. That's not what I'm excited to talk about. I am excited to talk about the creative aspect, about the soul aspect of business and branding. And so that's really where I'm going to be leaning into next the most. That's what I am creating my first kind of new offer around. And then there's still so much else that I want to do. You know, obviously I don't necessarily think all of this will be done in year 29, but like I've just been doing so much thinking about my life and my career specifically and the things that I want to do, and essentially being like, dude, you are the only person holding you back from doing or not doing these things. So if you want to do them, figure the fuck out how to do them. You know, one thing that I've really held myself back from and just want to do more intentionally the next time that I do it is creating a product-based business. So if you followed me for a long time, I did start a jewelry/fashion company back in 2021. And I've never really talked about this in like an extensive way. I've talked about it on podcasts and on stories and stuff, but maybe I'll do like a whole podcast on it and kind of what happened there. But I essentially I got really hung up and frustrated with the manufacturing process. It got very overwhelming. And then simultaneously, Phoenix was growing a lot. So I essentially had to choose between the well-established business that was already growing versus the new one that I was trying to figure out pretty much alone and was running into a lot of hurdles with. So I essentially just chose Phoenix, scrapped Solasta, which I do not, you know, now 3 years later, was not the move, or I would have handled it a lot differently. And I've definitely had fears around, like, if I do create a product-based brand again, will people trust me? You know, all of those things. But I do want to create physical product again in the future. So I'm just thinking more about that and just all of the different things that I want to do. And because I am somebody that is so multi-passionate, one thing that's going to be very, very important for me and that I'm in the mindset of is, okay, we want to create multiple things. We want to have kind of essentially multiple Horcruxes of ourselves in, you know, various places professionally. So it's like, how can I create that and create systems and structures around that support having multiple passions and desires and interests and giving all of them what they need to survive and thrive. So I know that got a little tangential there at the end. And like I said, not every single project will happen in, you know, 1 year. But that my mind is in a much more expansive place than it feels like it's been in a while. And that both feels liberating and terrifying, because while it's liberating in the sense that like, oh, I'm excited to be having these ideas and these desires and these inspirations, it's also very like scary and daunting at the same time, because it's like, okay, we have several things that we need to figure out to make these things happen. So it's going to be, I really feel like it's going to be a big year, big year, senior year. We're gearing up. So that is what I have for you. Thank you guys for being around for another year of my life. It is truly insane to think about the fact that I started content creating over a decade ago. Like, I saw on like my Facebook memories that I did my first bodybuilding show over 10 years ago. And I was like, how was that a thing? We were doing that 10 years ago. Like 10 years in my life have passed. And for some of you, you've been around that entire time, which is even more wild to me. So however long you've been here, whether it's been a day, a month, a year, 10 years, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming along with me in all of the different iterations of myself, regardless of how put together or messy they have been. I am really committed to I feel like I always want to say that I am in this place, but I really, really feel it and am putting plans in place to embody it this year of truly, truly most optimized version of me, the best that I can possibly be, the healthiest, the happiest, the most creative, the most abundant, really creating from that Taurus place of I'm not chasing, I am attracting, I am here to live and enjoy life and fully sink into the fact that I deserve to enjoy life. That is a very Taurus lesson and thing to embody, and just making life as fucking beautiful and harmonious as it can be. So I feel like this is my year of Taurus. That is what I'm working on really embodying this year, is that archetype that is very much so my sun sign, and ideally using some of the Virgo rising placements to create organization and structure behind that, because God knows my little neurodivergent brain needs that so much. We really got more of the Virgo perfectionism than we did the Virgo organization at times. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. If this episode resonated with you, if you are feeling any of these themes in your own life, please share this. Please share it on your story. Tag me, tag EMBody Radio. Another thing that I'm going to be working towards this year is just getting the podcast out there more. I've not been as organized as I should be with having, editing and all of that. So I've tried to do it all myself, and I have learned that I cannot do it all alone. Not a chance in hell. So I will be looking to hire an editor for the show so that we can actually regularly share, have it regularly on YouTube, all of those things. So good things coming. So I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me. I love you. You matter, and you are capable of so much more than you think. I'll see you next time.